Hey everyone, and welcome to this virtual get-together brought to you by getAbstract. My name is Ramona Marcionetti. I'm marketing manager at getAbstract, and I'm your host for today's session. At its core, getAbstract finds, rates, and summarizes relevant knowledge from reliable sources. To help you navigate this crisis wisely and professionally, we've decided to give you free access to our complete library until May 18th. So I would like to encourage you to register today on our website. There are, of course, no obligations. For those who see us live the first time today, we've launched the getAbstract Get-Together as a kind of live reading club where we discuss topics of the hour with interesting guests who are experts in their fields. So today's session is titled Extreme Productivity Work from Home Edition. We've got a great guest. It's the New York Times bestselling author, Kevin Kruse. So Kevin, welcome to our show today.
Thanks, Ramona. It's great to be here, and thanks for putting on this program for everyone.
It's really good to see you. Thanks for being here. So Kevin's book, 15 Secrets Successful People Know About Time Management, is a guide based on actual research and interviews into thousands of working professionals. Of course, you may find the respective summary in the getAbstract library. The coronavirus outbreak has globally changed the way that people live their lives and certainly also the way they are working. So staying productive, motivated, and also successful seems to require a totally new approach to managing yourself and your time. I'm super curious about Kevin's expert tips, but however, before we start, I want to encourage our watchers to be an active part of the session. So if you have a question for Kevin, if you want to leave a comment or share your experience, please do so. Use the comment function. So Kevin, let's dive into the topic. What do you say?
Sounds good. I'm ready.
Okie dokie. First of all, please tell us, what is the relevance of 15 secrets successful people know about time management in the context of the current crisis?
Yes, I think that the whole topic of time management and productivity, it's always been important. It's always been popular, but it's not anything that we can take for granted. And even those of us, some of us who have written a book about the subject, find that in these times, working from home with all kinds of distractions, we really need to focus on best practices and tips. It doesn't come easily anymore, even for those of us who are used to doing it in a normal workplace situation.
Yeah, definitely. So what you say, there is a difference between scheduling your day in your home office from scheduling your day at your workplace?
Well, I think the principles for extreme productivity are the same, but how we implement them has perhaps changed and gotten a little bit more challenging. So a key principle is, for example, just to be very clear on what your values are and how to work towards these goals, these values in any given day. And so a very simple thing would be to, for example, be clear, what is my most important task for today? And you would want to do that whether you're in an office environment or working from home. But it's critical to really schedule time and now place to work on that most important task. And so this is where in most people, they try to work on that most important task as early in the day and without distraction. In a workplace environment, that just might mean going in a little bit early or closing your office door if you have an office door. But here in a work from home environment, it means communicating with your spouse or partner or negotiating with your children who are running around that, hey, I need 30 minutes or 1 hour or 2 hours to work without interruption on this task. So I'm going to go into this room, please don't bother me. Or I'm going to go into my basement office, please don't bother me. So the principles of being focused on your most important tasks first is the same, but it's gotten harder. And how we have to communicate with those around us to protect that time is really the key.
Yeah, great point. Also in your book, you say that successful people try to achieve their daily priorities and then they leave the rest at the office. So how do you overcome the feeling of constant responsibility when your home is your office or the other way around? Like, how do you cater to the need for rest, for exercise, or for fun?
Yeah, that's an important question, and it surprises many people because often in the past, many managers and companies don't want people working from home because they think they're not going to be as productive or they're going to be goofing off if you can't see them. The reality is most people who work from home, they work too much. There's no boundary of being in the office and out of the office. So I wake up and I start responding to emails right away, and I work throughout the day. I don't really shut off at night. And so the risk is actually more about overwork, stress, and over long-term burnout. And so what I always say is if you're now working from home and you don't have the natural commute time to start and end your workday, create a ritual, replace commuting time with a ritual that sort of eases you into the workday and takes you out. And it can be anything at all that sort of breaks the day. So my example, I have 2 kids at home. And so I know that they're going to want dinner around 6 p.m. at night. And so even if I feel the need to work more, or I would like to work more, around 5:30 at night, that's when my ritual begins, where I'm going to go upstairs and empty the dishwasher and clean the counters and get everything out ready for dinner. And then I start to make dinner. Now, I might have music, my favorite music in the background. Maybe I'll listen to a podcast or an audiobook, similar to listening to the radio in my car or listening to an audiobook in my car. But this kind of forces that bookend, that bumper at the end of the day, to get out of, it's not relaxation, but it gets out of that work mode. I'm starting to decompress and switch into family mode. And so whether it's by doing the dishes like I do, or just walking around listening to your favorite podcast for a while, any end of the day rituals should sort of signal that now is the time to connect with family, to rest and recharge so that you can have maximum productivity the very next day.
Yeah, ironically, this doesn't exactly work when you have a baby at home. So I have a baby at home and there is no negotiation about like lunchtime or dinner time. So yeah, there are no set times.
No set times.
Yeah. Like, let's have a look at the other end. So there are people who cannot stop working in home office, but also there are people, for them, procrastination might be the reason why they choose easier task first. Or maybe a person believes that he or she is more productive later at a different time of the day or on a different day in the week. So how do you live up to your calendar in your home environment? As I said, with so many distractions and family obligations.
Yes. So this idea of procrastination and optimal working times, it's very important as an individual and then for team productivity as well. In fact, we just released for free at LeadX and in the LeadX app an entire course on working from home that tackles this sort of team productivity and remote productivity. And I talk about, for team productivity, I talk about the 3 agreements where when you go remote, we should all sort of know in general the start and end times that we're all working, so we know when we can connect. But it doesn't have to be the same because some people have different schedules. They like to work earlier or later or different family obligations. But ideally, there's at least 4 or 5 hours of overlap. whether that's 10 in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, everybody sort of agrees that we're going to try to work around. But some people might be taking the morning off, others might be taking the evening off. The second agreement is how long it will take to get back in touch with each other. So maybe if I send you an email, the agreement is you will respond by the end of the day. Maybe if I send you a message like on Slack, it's assuming you might respond within an hour. I don't know. You can decide your own time. It doesn't really matter. And maybe a phone call, that means immediate. But each team needs to think about how you will respond to each other. It's not about the distance, the physical distance. It's about response time, and to just make sure everybody agrees with that. And I think when it comes to that personal productivity in your time slots, what's more important than ever is to manage those distractions. Again, I usually am a very focused worker. But even I am pulled by my phone, wanting to check the latest news or the stock price or the Twitter feed, whatever. When the pace of change, when information changes very rapidly, then we get pulled because of that fear of missing out. Something might have happened that I don't know about that might be important. So sort of a FOMO. And so, again, the good practices in normal times are critical practices right now. And so think about doing focused work sprints where you put your phone on airplane mode or put it outside of your room. So you just single task, negotiate with everybody in your family except the baby to try not to interrupt you for 30 minutes or an hour. And you can't work solo for very long, but use some kind of timer. Like I always use, this is called the time timer, and it will count down. You can set an alarm and it will count down the time. So I like to work usually in 50 minutes straight, and then a 10-minute break where I can pop up and drink some water, walk around, check Twitter if I want, or emails. And then I go back into a work sprint. And so by setting yourself some parameters and knowing that I've got time for those distractions, I can go and get a snack. I can go and check the news. I can go and check in with the baby or whatever that might be. Then you'll be more productive during that work time.
Yeah, that's a great point that you're making here. I can say from my own experience, when I think about my team in the getAbstract family, communication and agreement on set times is crucial. So like you said, learning sprints and then be super productive, make a break and continue like this throughout the day. That works pretty well also for me. There is a question in the chat from Daniel coming in. Thank you, Daniel. The question is, in times of social distancing and isolation, should virtual meetings replace emails and phone communication to connect teams and to successfully work on common goals?
So I think it's both. So I think that one of the keys for companies that were already a remote first workplace, like at LeadX, we've always been remote first. We have people all over and they can work from home or come into an office. And I think that when you're doing remote work, email and messaging is important, and you need to communicate very concisely and clearly in written communication. That's more important than ever before. But I think the video communication is good for that, maintaining the social bonds. And especially on, again, just like email is not a good time to have a long back and forth discussion, it's the same principle now. If there's any kind of important decision to be made, a sensitive topic, then you're going to want to use video just so you get the body language and there's no misunderstanding, because the cold written word can be misunderstood very easily. So I don't think it's one or the other. I think continue the written communication, be extremely clear, but when in doubt, do the video, for that socialization and to make sure the emotions come across right.
Yeah, good point. There is another question in the chat. I have to lean forward a bit because it's really tiny on my screen. Give me a second. Upsala. Facebook question from Laura. Really great tips for scheduling, she said. She's referring to our former question, I think. How do you handle getting messages and requests from coworkers way into the evening and into the night? Even like when it's a global company and there's a time difference.
Yeah, so this is very tough. And actually, I was, even without the time difference, I used to be that boss who would send emails and messages at night, early in the morning, on Saturday, on Sunday. And for a long time, I would always tell people, you don't have to respond right away, but I'm going to forget. So I just want to send it now while I'm thinking about it, but no pressure to respond. What I didn't understand as a leader, what I didn't understand as a boss, is even if my words say they don't have to respond, they still feel the pressure that I should be checking. My boss might be emailing at night. My boss might be messaging on the weekend. I should check, or I'm going to look good if I respond. The other people aren't responding to them, but I am. I'm going to get the promotion because I'm a better worker or something. Once I understood that the pressure was still there, I try to not send messages off hours. So the first point about the hours is, again, if you're in a leadership position, if there is not a time zone problem, try to control that yourself and understand the dynamics. When it comes to time zones, this is very difficult. So I've not found any way. You have a team all over the globe working different hours. Ideally, you schedule that overlap time. Even if it's for 1 hour or 2 hours, then everybody knows when you can connect live or try to get some messaging done. But depending on where in the globe you are, that's not always reasonable. But it goes back to those expectations. Be very clear. What are the agreements? What are the expectations? Is it that we will message around the clock, but we know it might take 12 hours or 24 hours to respond? Or are we still expecting a 3-hour response? And do we all realize that might not be good for our personal lives? So I just think we have to communicate clearly and be mindful of the challenge that so many of us are having. It's always hard to be responsive outside of normal hours. But in this environment of crisis and concern and taking care of each other's health, it becomes even more of a sensitive issue, I think.
Yeah, I like this. It's really about like being in it together. Everybody sits in the same boat, and we have to be respectful with other people's time and communicate in a good way with each other to get through this. I like that very much.
We've learned, Ramona, I like this. You talk about we're in the same boat. And boy, in a time like this, we have discovered how the earth really is a very small boat. And we really are all in this together.
Yeah. If you would like to sum this up, what would be your top 3 tips for extreme productivity in the home office?
Yes, again, I think the principles remain the same. It's just a little bit harder to implement them. And so the first, I would say, is just be very clear on your priorities. Some people have an easier job of that than others. When all of this started to happen, I told my team members, I don't expect that you're going to work 8 hours a day. I don't expect you're going to hit all the deadlines that we set a month ago. All I ask is that everybody start the day and really focus. What do I really need to do today? What do I need to do so everybody else can stay productive, so I'm not a bottleneck? So be very clear on your priorities. It's unrealistic to think you can work the same these days. And then second, prioritize that focused time on that priority. Talk to your family members about giving you that time. Shut off your phone, shut off email or other distractions. And then the final thing is, if possible, have a separate space that you work from in your home. Now, in many homes, they're very small, but even if it's a separate desk with a separate chair, psychologically, when you're in that space, that's your workspace, and you won't pick up your phone, you won't watch the TV, you won't have snacks in that area. And so by knowing what you have to work on, minimize distractions during that time, and having a physical space that represents work, that's how you're going to get your extreme productivity in a short burst.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. There is another question from Enrico. Do you have advice how to say no? Like when you know that this one extra task will not fit into your schedule?
Yeah, Enrico, that's a great question. And in fact, one of the 15 secrets that successful people know about time management is the power of no. That's a whole chapter. And I spoke to, in interviews for the book, self-made billionaires, self-made millionaires, Olympic athletes, and this came up over and over again, is they would say, if this does not support my immediate goal or my next goal, the answer is going to be no. Now, I have a very hard problem with that myself because I'm a people pleaser. You know, it feels like I'm being rude if I say no, and I want to help people. So I'm usually saying yes when I should say no. What I try to remind myself is every time I say yes, I'm saying no to something else, even if I haven't been asked that yet. If I say yes to an interview, then I'm also then saying no to writing an article or returning a phone call or answering reader emails. It's inevitable. There's just these choices. So first, I kind of tell myself, I trick myself to realize that even by saying yes, I'm saying no somewhere else. So I might as well give that no. But if it's tricky, like how do you say no to your boss or someone like that, then you just need to explain the consequences by saying, yes, I can do this thing for you, but I won't be able to get to it till 2 weeks from now because of the other things on my to-do list. Or, yes, I can do that thing for you today. I assume it's okay that this other thing, I won't give it to you until next week because now I don't have the time for it. So you just talk out loud your schedule with the other person, and they will realize that you don't really have time for it, or there's going to be a consequence, and just use them as a partner on the priorities. And many times they'll say, oh, I didn't realize it was going to take that long, or I didn't realize you were that busy, or no, I understand, I'll do it myself. But you don't say no right away. You say yes, but, and explain the consequence. Hopefully that helps.
At a different point, I learned never ever say no, but I get what you mean. Explain what would be the consequences is certainly a good tactic to get further. Yeah.
Ramona,
okay,
your boss must love you.
Oh, Thomas, do you? I hope he's watching. Yeah, if we respect all the things that you said, all the tips that you mentioned, I can imagine we will be surprised by the results that we can achieve at the end of the day, and also hopefully at the very soon end of this crisis. So thank you very much for sharing your helpful insights today. I just had a look at the chat. At the moment, there is no further questions, so I will wrap up here. I definitely want to recommend 15 Secrets Successful People Know About Time Management to our watchers. It's a great book. And if you want to know more about the topic, check out the time management channel on the getAbstract website with further respective summaries. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kevin, for joining us today. I would like to invite you back tomorrow. getAbstract editor Conny Gebesdorf is talking about the stress test and how you manage the challenges you face in these times. So everybody stay healthy, stay productive, and have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye, and thank you, Kevin, again.
Thanks.
Extraordinary challenges require extraordinary responses from thought leaders, company executives, and employees. As the coronavirus pandemic unfolds and businesses scramble to adapt to escalating containment efforts, getAbstract is here to help organizations navigate this crisis wisely and professionally. For over 20 years, we've been committed to providing relevant knowledge from reliable sources to help people make better decisions in their personal and professional lives. In line with our mission to empower decision makers with relevant knowledge from trusted sources, we are proud to offer businesses free access to our full library until May 18. Embark on a no-strings-attached knowledge journey with getAbstract. Sign up today.